Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something pretty fundamental to university life exams, and specifically, how do we make sure they're fair?
That's right. You send over this really interesting study that tackles that head on. It compares, the standard teacher watch exams with ones where students are basically on their own.
Yeah, looking at which one actually does a better job stopping cheating. Because
Yeah.
we all assume watching helps, but maybe not.
Exactly. And this isn't just like an opinion piece. It's based on a study in the Educational Psychology Review, just out in October 2024,
Okay.
called Effectiveness of Unproctored versus Teacher-Proctored Exams in Reducing Students Cheating.
Mhm.
Uh, Quite a mouthful, but the key part is double-blind, randomized, controlled field experimental study.
Whoa, okay. So, proper science.
Very much so. 4 separate experiments, actually, really trying to nail it down.
So the core question you wanted us to dig into is, well, are those supervised exams really the best way? Or could these unproctored formats, maybe the ones based more on trust, be just as good, or maybe even better?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a debate that's been around forever, basically.
And this study apparently has some pretty surprising things to say about it.
It really does. But, before we jump into the findings, it probably helps to understand where these two, completely different ways of doing exams even came from.
Good idea. Let's start with the classic proctored exam. Someone watching you. That feels ancient, is it?
It actually is, surprisingly. The roots go way, way back. Ancient China, Zhou Dynasty. We're talking first millennium BCE.
Wow. Okay, not for university then, I guess?
No, this was for picking government officials.
Mm.
But the core idea was there, supervised testing. Over centuries, it became this big merit-based system.
For merit-based.
Yeah,
So fair testing was crucial.
absolutely. Rigorous proctoring, preventing cheating. It was central to the whole thing, making sure people got positions based on ability, not, connections or cheating. Open application, regular exams.
So the integrity of the exam was tied to the integrity of the government, in a way.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it shaped Chinese society for centuries. Think about the impact incentivizing learning, creating this pathway to advancement based on exams.
It's wild to think that the exam hall we know has echoes thousands of years old. Does that system still influence things today?
Oh, definitely. You can see traces in things like China's Gaokao, the big university entrance exam, or even civil service exams around the world. That legacy of supervised, standardized testing is really strong.
Okay, so that's one side. Deep historical roots. What about the other side? Unproctored exams. Where did that pop up?
That's much, much newer. Really started gaining traction in the U.S., 1830s College of William and Mary.
1830s. Okay, so what was the thinking there? Just easy.
Not really ease, it was more philosophical. It grew alongside the whole honor code idea.
Ah, the honor code.
Right.
Okay.
So the shift was away from policing students and threatening punishment. It was about building trust, encouraging students to govern themselves, tapping into their own sense of honesty.
So less stick, more carrot. Or maybe just trusting people to do the right thing.
Kind of, yeah. Trusting them to uphold academic integrity themselves. It's about cultivating that internal responsibility, making it a personal principle, not just avoiding getting caught.
Like a community standard.
Exactly. And Princeton adopting it in 1893 was a big step. It really cemented this idea that you could have exams based on mutual trust and moral autonomy.
So you've got these two really different philosophies, both aiming for fair assessment, but coming from totally opposite directions.
Right. One based on supervision and external control, the other on trust and internal motivation.
Which sets the stage perfectly for this study because, well, cheating is still a massive problem, isn't it? No matter the system.
Oh, absolutely. It's not like cheating suddenly appeared with the internet. Even in those ancient Chinese exams with huge stakes, people tried to cheat.
Yeah, the study mentioned cheat sheets hidden in clothes, getting someone else to sit the exam, bribery.
All the classics. And they're still around, just, sometimes with a tech upgrade.
And it's widespread now, right? The numbers are kind of shocking.
They really are. Self-reports. Well, you have to take them with a grain of salt. But they range from 40% up to 90% globally admitting something. McCabe's U.S. survey back in '05 found around 70%.
70%. Wow.
And even in controlled lab studies or field experiments where they can measure it more directly, the rates are high. 50% in one U.S. study, nearly 70% in a recent Chinese one.
Okay, so yeah, figuring out what actually works to reduce that is pretty critical.
Definitely. And that's where things got tricky before this new study. The existing research comparing proctored and unproctored was kind of all over the place.
Really? No clear winner?
Not really. You had some survey data, like McCabe's again in '99, suggesting maybe less cheating in unproctored settings.
Okay, that fits the trust idea.
Right. But then other studies, like Dyer et al.
Hmm.
In 2020, suggested the opposite based on student perceptions. More cheating without supervision.
Huh. Why the disagreement?
Well, surveys have issues. Social desirability bias, for one. People might not want to admit cheating, even anonymously.
Makes sense. Wanting to look good.
Exactly. And what people say they do versus what they actually do can be different.
Right. So what about actual experiments trying to compare them?
Earlier field experiments often had methodological problems. Maybe they couldn't randomly assign students, so the groups weren't truly comparable.
Like comparing an engineering class to an arts class or something.
Yeah, or different professors with different attitudes. Lots of things could muddy the waters. Even the authors of this new study had conflicting results in their own earlier work from 2021 and 2023. It highlighted how hard it is to isolate just the effect of proctoring.
So this latest study was designed to cut through all that noise.
That was the goal, yeah. Using this double-blind, randomized controlled design, it's often called the gold standard for this kind of question.
Okay, break that down. Double blind.
Means neither the students nor the professor's grading knew who was in which condition, proctored or unproctored. Removes bias.
Okay. And randomized controlled.
Students from the same class randomly put into either the proctored or unproctored group, so the group should be really similar to start with.
Got it. And field experiment.
Done with real students, taking real exams for their actual course grades, not just a lab simulation. Makes it more relevant to the real world.
Right. And who were the participants?
Second-year undergrads at a university in China. And interestingly, this university already had a system of what they called trust exams, basically unproctored ones.
Oh, so the students weren't totally new to the idea of taking an exam without supervision.
Exactly. They had some familiarity, even though there wasn't a formal, like, U.S.-style honor code.
Okay, now the really clever part. How did they actually measure cheating objectively? That seems like the toughest bit.
This is where it gets ingenious. They use something called the fake question paradigm.
Fake question paradigm. Sounds intriguing.
Yeah. So they put a few fill-in-the-blank questions into the real exam. These questions look plausible, like they fit the course. But they were actually about totally fake concepts the researchers made up. The answers didn't exist anywhere, not online, not in textbooks before the exam.
Okay, I think I see where this is going, like a trap.
Exactly. Then, after the exam started, supposedly when all phones and devices were away,
Right.
they posted the fake correct answers on the students' online course portal. Students were told answers would appear later, but not to check during the test.
So if a student got one of those fake questions right,
Nimgo. It's almost certain they cheated by looking it up online during the exam. It's a really direct measure of that specific type of cheating.
that is smart. Much better than just asking them or trying to watch everyone constantly.
Yeah, way more objective. And they looked at two things. The cheating rate, did a student cheat at all on these questions? And the cheating extent, how many of the fake questions did they get right?
Okay, makes sense. Rate and extent. And they did this across 4 studies.
4 studies, yeah, using the same basic setup.
All right, let's get to it then. What did they find? Let's start with the first 2 studies where they didn't use any specific reminders about honesty, just proctored versus unproctored.
Oh, so studies 1 and 2. The results were pretty consistent and honestly kind of blew my mind a bit.
Oh, how so?
They found the cheating rate was significantly lower in the unproctored groups compared to the proctored groups.
Wait, lower without a proctor?
Yeah.
Lower.
The study calls it moderate evidence, but still, fewer students cheated when they weren't being watched.
Wow. That completely flips the script on the common assumption, doesn't it?
It really does. It challenges that whole idea that supervision is the main deterrent.
Okay, so that's the rate of cheating. What about the extent? If someone did decide to cheat, did they cheat more or less, depending on the format?
Interestingly, in those first 2 studies, once a student crossed the line and cheated on at least one fake question, the number of fake questions they got right wasn't significantly different between the 2 groups.
Huh. So the supervision seemed to affect the decision whether to cheat in the first place?
Exactly, but not necessarily how much they cheated once they started.
Okay, that's a subtle but important point. Now, they also looked at adding reminders, right, in the later study.
Yep. Studies 3 and 4 brought in academic integrity reminders. They put them right on the cover page of the exam booklet.
What kind of reminders?
Things like highlighting the university's policies on cheating, mentioning the consequences, and even giving a short, anonymized example of a real case where someone got caught and disciplined.
Okay, so making the rules and risks really explicit right before they start, how did that change things?
Well, the picture got a bit more complicated. In Study 3, that difference in cheating rates between proctored and unproctored, it vanished when the reminders were there.
Vanished. So the reminders leveled the playing field.
It seemed like it, yeah. Students cheated at similar rates regardless of the format when they got the reminder. Although there was a small, interesting finding for male students who did cheat in that study.
Oh,
They cheated to a lesser extent in the unproctored group compared to the proctored group, but only the guys.
okay. A specific gender effect there. What about study 4? Did that also show the reminders wiping out the difference?
No, Study 4 was a bit different again. There, even with the reminders, the cheating rate was still lower in the unproctored group.
So back to the pattern from studies 1 and 2.
For the cheating rate, yes. But again, the extent of cheating among those who did cheat didn't differ significantly between formats in Study 4. So, kind of mixed signals when you add reminders.
It does sound a bit messy looking at them one by one. I guess that's why they did the combined analysis, the mini meta-analysis.
Exactly. Pooling the data from all 4 studies gives you more statistical power to see the bigger picture, the overall trends.
Right. So what did that big picture view show? What were the main headlines from combining all 4 studies?
Okay, the mini meta-analysis really solidified a few key things. First, exam type does matter. Overall, unproctored exams consistently led to a lower cheating rate.
Low rate overall.
And among those students who did cheat, they also cheated to a lesser extent in the unproctored settings.
Oh, okay. So the extent difference did show up when they combine all the data.
It did, yeah. So lower rate and lower extent for unproctored exams overall, that's pretty strong evidence suggesting they might actually foster more integrity.
That is a powerful finding. Really pushes back against the default assumption. What else came out of the combined analysis?
Reminders work. Across the board, adding those academic integrity reminders significantly reduced the overall cheating rate.
Regardless of proctored or unproctored.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is great news, really. It supports using them as a practical tool.
Good to know. Did the reminders work better in one format than the other?
Interestingly, no. The analysis didn't find a significant interaction. It seems the reminders help, and the unproctored format helps, but they kind of work independently. One doesn't boost the effect of the other significantly.
Okay. And any other factors, like gender or course type?
The combined analysis didn't find any significant overall differences based on gender or whether students were in psychology versus education courses, which were the 2 fields involved.
Right. So the main takeaways are unproctored seems better for reducing cheating, both rate and extent, and reminders help reduce the rate regardless of format.
That's the gist of it, yeah.
Okay, the big why question then. Why might unproctored exams lead to less cheating? It feels so backwards. What explanations did the researchers offer?
They suggest a couple of main psychological mechanisms. One is about mutual trust and moral autonomy.
Okay.
The idea is when the university or the instructor signals trust in the students by not constantly watching them,
Yeah.
students might feel a greater sense of responsibility to uphold that trust. It could encourage them to act more honorably.
So the lack of supervision isn't seen as an opportunity to cheat, but as a sign of respect that motivates honesty.
That's one strong possibility. It taps into their sense of self-governance. Another related idea comes from something called self-concept maintenance theory.
Self-concept maintenance.
Basically, we all like to think of ourselves as generally good, honest people now.
Hope so.
And we're motivated to act in ways that let us keep believing that. So, in an unsupervised setting, cheating might create too much dissonance with that positive self-image. You'd feel like a hypocrite.
So to avoid feeling bad about yourself, you just don't cheat.
Kind of. You act according to your internal moral standard. But if there's a proctor,
Yes.
the thinking is that external presence might shift your focus. It becomes less about, am I being honest? And more about, can I get away with this? The external threat might overshadow the internal motivation.
That's fascinating. The proctor paradoxically makes it less about internal morals and more about external risk calculation.
That's the theory, yeah. It's quite compelling.
Okay, and what about the reminders? Why do they seem to work so well?
Again, a few potential reasons. Nudge theory is one.
Nudge theory, like subtle prompts.
Exactly. Just seeing those rules and consequences right there on the exam paper acts as a little nudge toward ethical behavior, making morality more salient at that key moment.
Okay.
Then there's social learning theory. Seeing or being reminded that other students face real consequences for cheating can act as a deterrent for yourself.
Learning from others' mistakes, basically.
Right. And finally, moral priming. The reminders might just activate moral concepts in the brain, making ethical considerations more top of mind when students are making decisions during the exam.
So it's like tuning their moral compass right before they need it. Makes sense. Subtle cues, consequences, activating morals. Seems plausible. Now, every study has limits. What did the authors say about the limitations here?
They were upfront about a few things. First, it was done with second-year students at one university in China.
Right.
So the question is, how well does this apply to, say, first years or students in the U.S. or Europe or universities without any history of trust exams or honor codes?
Sure.
Generalizability is a question.
Okay, context matters. What else?
The reminders they used were kind of a package deal: policies, consequences, and example case. They didn't test which specific part of the reminder was most effective. Was it the fear of consequences, the moral appeal? We don't know from this study.
Gotcha. So you couldn't say just tell them the rules is enough.
Right. Also, cheating wasn't eliminated, just reduced. So there's still work to do.
Yeah.
And one other thing, they didn't formally ask students afterwards if they suspected the fake questions were, well, fake or part of an experiment.
Ah, could suspicion affect behavior?
Potentially, yeah. It's a common challenge in this kind of research.
All fair points. So where should research go next based on this?
Well, testing generalizability is key. Either different students, different countries, different university cultures, with and without honor codes. Also, breaking down those reminders to see what elements really work best.
Makes sense.
And exploring other potential interventions, maybe emphasizing learning goals over just grades, using honor pledges before exams, more explicit moral appeals, lots of avenues to explore. And yeah, maybe trying to gauge or control for student suspicion.
Definitely sounds like there's more digging to do. So bringing this all back home for someone listening, why does this study matter? What's the relevance for, anyone involved in learning or teaching?
Well, theoretically, it adds a lot to how we understand academic honesty and moral decision-making in these high-stakes situations. And methodologically, it's a great example of a really rigorous way to study a tricky topic.
Okay, but practically, for universities, for students.
Practically, it's potentially huge.
Yeah.
It gives real evidence-based support to the idea that unproctored exams, especially if you pair them with clear integrity reminders, might actually be a better strategy for reducing cheating than the traditional supervised model.
Better, not just equivalent.
Possibly better, yeah.
Yeah.
It suggests we could foster a culture of genuine honesty by showing trust, rather than just focusing on surveillance. That could lead to assessments that are actually more valid measures of learning, just a more positive, trustworthy environment for everyone.
So wrapping this up, the big takeaway from this deep dive seems to be pretty surprising, doesn't it?
It really is.
That unproctored exams, maybe counterintuitively, especially when you add those reminders about academic honesty, could actually be more effective at cutting down on cheating than having a teacher watch over everyone's shoulder.
Yeah, it definitely challenges that conventional wisdom. It really points towards the power of maybe trusting students, tapping into their internal motivation.
Instead of just relying on the deterrent effect of being watched.
Exactly. And it makes you think, doesn't it, about other areas like online courses. Proctoring those can be a real headache, technically and financially.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Or professional exams, certifications. Because shifting towards building a culture of trust and emphasizing ethics rather than just tightening surveillance lead to more integrity there, too.
It's definitely food for thought. How much does the culture around the assessment matter compared to just the rules and supervision?
Precisely. Now, look, we've covered the main points, but there's obviously more detail in the actual paper, the stats, the specific procedures.
Right. So if people want the full nitty-gritty.
We've put a link to the original study in the show notes. Anyone who wants to really dive deep into the data can check it out there.
Perfect. And we'd love to know what you, the listener, think about all this. Do these findings ring true? Do they surprise you? Do they spark any ideas or questions?
Yeah, let us know your thoughts. It's a fascinating area, and hearing different perspectives is always valuable.